momentum these past few years. But for those that are less familiar, Blizzard got into the scene 20 plus years ago with StarCraft 2 and was one of the first to venture into esports. But to your point, really even before that start, things like chess and Pong were getting people to tune in and watch and want to see competition live. So the idea of it has been around for a long time. But really, I would say in the last decade or so, it started to take off. Perhaps that really was sparked by the shift in technology with Wi-Fi, as well as the new social and digital platforms that started to spin up. Of course, Twitch with Justin TV was one of the first to really bring live streaming and live esports to the scene. And that's progressed. We now are partners with YouTube, so it's continuing to grow from there. I'd say that was a key point. Another key point, one of my most favorite actually moments was our fellow friends over at Riot in the League of Legends Worlds that they brought with an incredible showing of VR with a cool dragon as part of their pre-show. I think that was another inflection point that just kind of scaled esports to another level. Also to see what we launched with the Overwatch League at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, which was the first ever city-based global esports league on the scene. That felt like another big moment. And then of course to where we are today, that esports and gaming is really starting to be part of culture. You're starting to see that change a lot. One of our team owners, as part of one of our ownership groups, is Post Malone, right? I mean, what bigger kind of part on the music scene than him? And you're just starting to see a lot of that intertwine. So I feel like there's another inflection point that's really been happening the past year or two, even through the pandemic. So lots of big moments, but in the sphere of competitive entertainment, we're very much at the infancy of what's possible and what's happening. So there'll be a lot more of those moments to come.
Absolutely. And as you said, there's been a lot of change, a lot of growth in this last year or two, especially through the pandemic. What was like most surprising? What was really exciting? What really succeeded through the pandemic? What broke, if you don't mind sharing it with the group?
Yeah, so we were poised to have an incredible year going into the pre-COVID life, in which we were bringing our esports leagues around the world in home markets for the first time ever. So the Overwatch League had been around for a couple of years, but it was the first time that we were bringing the games live in arenas around the world to our 20 teams. The Call of Duty League, in its second year, was still going to the first time that really took off in the home series. And we got about 2 weeks in until COVID redefined what entertainment viewing experience looked like. So we obviously had to completely pivot. So our vision of the league, has grown into what we now see as a bit of a hybrid approach as to how we think we bring digital and in real life experiences to our fans. And we had to take, on the Overwatch League side, for example, we took a 2-week hiatus in live production and bringing esports to the fans when COVID hit, to re-engineer something. So our broadcast tech team worked to get the servers kind of all up online and running. And it was great because we were able to have an East and West division and continue competition when many other entertainment brands, really had to shut down and just couldn't figure out how to make it work, not in person. So that is, a huge advantage to the esports scene. However, because we are a truly global league with teams all over the world, we actually weren't able to compete the best of the best, meaning we had an East division and a West division, but the way broadband and servers and the tech side works is we actually couldn't compete between our Asia teams and our North America teams. So going into this year on the Overwatch League side, as that example still standing, we found an innovation of partnering with the University of Hawaii to put a server in Hawaii, server in Tokyo, and fly our players to Hawaii, which met COVID protocols. Obviously, we were really strict on that, but have our North America team in a location in which could reach the teams in the Asia market and crown a single victor in our stage tournaments, which may sound of, oh, that's great, you're able to compete globally. But I think what people don't realize is that very few entertainment brands fully are global. A lot of the esports brands are doing tournaments in different locations and then bringing everyone physically together. So to have players compete in a virtual world at the same time with the way the ping rates need to work in order to uphold that level of competition is actually quite challenging. So that's something that we were able to innovate on and kind of create. But I would say the biggest thing that probably, maybe not shocking, but that came out of COVID is exactly this hybrid approach of, nothing replicates an in-person live experience, no matter what entertainment you're talking about. So we definitely want to get back to that place and are taking the steps to do so. But it showed that our leagues can continue to compete in the digital world, and that we can do both, and that no matter what's happening around us, we can still bring that type of entertainment and content to our fans, which is pretty cool.
That's really awesome that you were able to bring the whole world together in a tournament, especially when we were all so separated over these last 2 years. I mean, I normally am on about 100 flights a year, and it was a very strange time. It almost makes me think about the World Cup in a way where teams are from all over the world. Talent comes from everywhere, so a team can be from people from all over different countries, or even stepping maybe a step further. And I don't know if it's e-games because they were games. It makes me think of like the old chess tournaments and having, the greatest chess players in the world playing each other. How have you guys seen the influence of specific cultures, of areas of the world on these teams, on how the creators act, on sort of the personalities and the way that they engage on a world stage?
Yeah, I love this question because, again, esports is fully global. We have, if you look at the Overwatch League side, half of our fans in Asia, North America is still very strong, particularly on the Call of Duty League side. We see a lot of fans, but the diversity of fandom across all esports is quite massive, which I think just makes it really unique for the industry. Probably different when you compare that to traditional professional sports. You probably don't see that much of a diversity. You certainly don't see the globalness. As you mentioned, soccer is definitely the best comparison. We also a lot of times think about what the Olympics are doing and how they actually bring a global fandom together with that type of offering. So it is really unique. It means that we are segmenting and tailoring what we're doing drastically across the world. What I really enjoy from a marketer perspective with our properties at Activision Blizzard is that the consumer base and the globalness is very different on the Call of Duty League versus the Overwatch League. The fans are different. They both average age around 25. So all fans are very digital savvy, on social, on mobile, all of those incredible things of places you want to be engaging with fans on, but the fan bases are quite different. So we think a bit differently, how we're bringing content to life, what we're saying on social in our different properties across, Asia, EU, and North America. And, at the end of the day, we're obviously looking to entertain our fans. That is our number one goal, and bring that to life. But we are approaching it a bit differently based on the area of the world. And, because all esports, while you don't have to play the game or even follow the game to watch the esports, that's what's kind of cool. You can take a more passive approach to checking out the franchise. There's all different types of people watching. And so that's what's also nice about esports. It's a bit more accessible, and we're able to reach fans of a bit more diversity around the world because of that, particularly because you just have to pull up your mobile, go live on YouTube and check out what's happening. The barrier to kind of enter is a little bit lower. So
Yeah. So like in traditional sports, I think some of the fun on esports is really learning about these creators, learning about these players, the history and how they got there, seeing rivalries, seeing similarities between yourself and them, the stories, the personalities. Do you have favorite players, favorite teams, or like a favorite story narrative?
Yeah. So just for those that may be a little less familiar with how our leagues operate, do want to mention, I did say that we are global city-based esports leagues, the Call of Duty League based on the game Call of Duty, the Overwatch League based on Overwatch, and the Call of Duty League has 12 teams that are part of the league. The Overwatch League has 20 teams. So we're thinking in terms of about 32 teams around the world, spanning North America, US and Canada, as well as EU and Asia, particularly China and South Korea. So all the teams are very different. From a marketing perspective, my favorite thing was being able to collaborate with the teams as they invented their team branding and team names and kind of all that fun stuff that rarely ever happens of a league starting up, that you can do everything at once, kind of from scratch. Of course, though, from the stance that I take, I just want to see good competition. I just want to see rivalries. I want to see personalities come out of the players. I love all of those storylines. I love the underdog storyline of somebody kind of coming from behind, the reverse sweeps that happen live in competition. We actually just saw that on the Overwatch League side this past weekend, where Shanghai kind of came back and defeated the Dallas team, which is also really cool to just know that we have teams, so they're fully global, playing each other. So I love to see it all. I think when in terms of kind of the storyline part that you mentioned, that is just so critical for us and the type of content that we are trying to bring to our fans. It's not just a live event. Of course, the live event is the marquee. The live competition is what people are tuning in for. They want to see, the best players in the world playing their favorite game go against each other, and watching, the best dozen players at what they love to do, what 100 million players play on the Call of Duty League side, if you will. But they want to see the storylines, and that is how, the draw of all live competition. So something we're really trying to lean more into are those behind the scenes, getting to know the players, understanding what it takes to become pro, understanding that some of these rivalries actually really do run deep, particularly on the Call of Duty side. It's been competitive for a bit. There is really strong endemic stories with the ownership groups and the teams and the players that have been in the league or been competing on Call of Duty for a long time. So we're looking to lean into that a lot more, and I love all of it. There's probably not one that I would particularly single out, but at the end of the day, I would say my favorite thing is the underdog story, somebody coming, from behind or not expected to do what they do. And I would say that's probably how I feel across all sports properties, but particularly in our league and in esports is my favorite part.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Everyone loves an underdog. One of the things that's interesting is how different these games are and how different these leagues are. And being in gaming, a lot of times when I'm talking to brands, they'll just be this flinch of like, oh, first-person shooters, I don't want to. Where Overwatch is such a different title and such a different sort of feel and belief system. Could you talk a little bit about how brands are engaging with it, how it really feels as a league?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Overwatch League is really tied to the core values of the game Overwatch. And the game Overwatch is just this really special, bright, optimistic, hopeful game in which all these diverse heroes are coming together really for a bigger purpose in the world. It's a very inclusive environment. As I mentioned, all the heroes are very diverse. They represent different backgrounds, all walks of life, people, things, etc. And when we were launching the Overwatch League, we really wanted to lean into the lore of the game. It's what makes it so unique on the scene. And we felt that's what could really differentiate us from an esports perspective too, is just being really authentic to the community. We talked when we first launched the league that the Overwatch League was really created for the community. It's for the players, to just give them something to cheer about and come together and be a community together, watching something just so spectacular and exciting. So we really did lean into that. And because of that, everything that we do on the Overwatch League side has a bit more of that kind of friendly community approach. We were fortunate enough in our first 2 years to have live events in the Los Angeles area. And just to see the friendships that our fans formed was amazing. It doesn't matter what team you're rooting for. In fact, there were players that would come, fans that would come and wear multiple team jerseys, right? They just were so excited to support these teams and the players and just be part of the community. So that's been something we've just really leveraged, or not even leveraged, but leaned into and listened to the community to understand what is working for them, what they want to see more of, how we can entertain them, what kind of offerings we can bring to them. And so, kind of to fast forward a couple of years from now of where we are, we've had really just awesome partners such as Coca-Cola, State Farm, Kellogg's, come in and want to be a part of this brand because it does have this really positive, diverse, inclusive environment. And at the same time, because we are this global city-based esports league, we also have fans that are all over the world, that are diverse in their backgrounds, that are brought up in different cities, different areas, different kind of understanding of the world, but we're bringing them together, with one common thing, which if you look at a Coca-Cola, that's a very on brand for them as well. So it's been really unique to be able to have that offering. To your point, when we look at our sister property, which is the Call of Duty League, it is more heavy into that first person shooter narrative, but also with that level of authenticity, and just kind of being bold with who we are, and obviously being part of the Call of Duty franchise, which is just one of the biggest games, in any gaming history, that lends itself to different partners that, that also value that type of fan base, and loyalty and just kind of passion. So we have some unique partners on that side, Scuff, Astro, T-Mobile, that are all, really leaning into that. So it's been pretty cool because we are on the esports side more agile perhaps than some other competitive entertainment brands to really partner with these brands and get after our common goals together. So it just makes it a bit easier, I would say, on the Overwatch side, that we have that built-in community that so many of these brands, really do want to reach. And not only are they positive and inclusive, as I mentioned, they're also living on digital and social and streaming 24/7 and mobile. They're having all those conversations and they're welcoming of the brands coming in. I would say that was honestly the biggest surprising thing for me is just learning through research and just also seeing it from our fans, is that our fans embrace partners and sponsors. It brings a level of validity to the sport, the esport that they love, and they welcome, partners coming in, which is, I would say, very unique. And maybe that's because I was working with a New York sports team prior, and never experienced something like that before. So it's pretty cool to see that.
Well, when you have brands coming into a community like this and a property that people really identify with, that they feel seen in, that is such a big part of their lives, how do you talk to brands, or how do you recommend brands make sure that they do this in an authentic voice? And can you give some examples of some of like your most fun or your favorite activations that you've done?
Yeah, for sure. So you hit it. Authenticity is key. Hopefully for some of those tuning in, you've heard people across the esports space talk about how critical being authentic and just being true to your brand, because esports fans, as embracing as they are, they're also the first to say, hey, you're not being real, right? And that's because of the demographic. Again, our average age is 25. They know when people are being real and speaking with them and understanding kind of how the world is working and all of those things. But to your point, I think the partners have had the most success are those that are willing to just kind of be agile and test and learn with us and try new programs and pivot when things aren't working. So even just thinking about what happened this past year in COVID, we had a lot of partners that were looking to be a part of the in-life experiences at the arenas, at these home series matches and tournaments around the world. And they had to pivot and figure something else out. So when we looked at, for example, our Call of Duty League Champs weekend this about a year ago, because we're gearing up for the next one already, which is crazy how time is flying. But one of our partners, Chipotle, it was important to them to put burritos in hands. How do you do that? How do you get that message across when you're not in person? And they were able to work with us to give away codes live in chat while people were watching the stream. And you just had to, spam and get your code. And what a great way to give away, and then go to the store and redeem it. Our fans just loved that because it was like, hey, we're where you are, and we know what you want, and we're going to help kind of give it to you, if you will. The other really cool thing that we experienced a few years ago, about 2 years ago now, on the Overwatch League side, is we brought a fan experience with all of our partners to life before the fans headed into the Wells Fargo Center for grand finals. It's something that you see very common at sports events, NASCAR, soccer. They're all bringing those live the kind of fanfares and activations outside these stadiums and arenas before the events. And we worked with our partners to bring that to life as well. So we partners like Toyota, who wrapped their cars in, the Overwatch League skins, which was super cool to see the heroes, on the front of a car. We had Coca-Cola, as mentioned, take part in a photo opportunity in which you could pose like Tracer and kind of be, get your photo taken. So I know that probably seems, interesting to talk about when we're here talking about the future of esports and gaming. And, the obvious answer would be how all these brands are working with us digitally and kind of transforming the digital space, which is definitely key for us. But, the way we've had success working with brands is just doing cool things, bringing cool content, bringing cool experiences to the fans that is just going to make their experience better and make them feel more like a community that they want to be a part of and something they don't want to miss out on. Again, not dissimilar to any type of passionate fan base. It's just doing it, authentically where they are. So those are just a couple of quick examples. There's so many more that I'm sure we'll even probably touch on as we talk more about the future of tech and where that's headed.
Yeah, and those sound like really awesome custom activations. I think with sports and esports, you see sort of team sponsorship, you see major activation, but you have real stadiums and virtual stadiums. How are you all thinking about share of voice, share of attention, or the attention economy within those space for more traditional advertising?
Yeah, absolutely. So the good news is that, our consumer, our fan, is spending hours watching, hours playing. I mentioned it's not that everyone needs to play to watch, but a lot of them are spending time in game as well as watching us on stream and or doing both at once, right? And something else at the same time. So there's a lot of kind of ways to show up and and be a part of that journey that can be kind of collaborative. On the streaming side, that's a pretty easy integration. There's advertising opportunities all throughout, our broadcast and our stream. As you mentioned, this year when we took everything virtually, we had a full virtual set. While the casters were all in different areas, the different hosts in different areas in the country, the virtual stage brought those same branding experiences as you would if you were live. Of course, we have ad breaks, just like any other live entertainment brings to you. But definitely the future of where things are going is the more integrated, the better. So showing up in game, the billboards in game, the stadium in game, on the Call of Duty side. That is, I think, really just starting to ramp up for all esports properties, us included, of how we're just kind of being more part of that. And then also to just kind of what we hit on, like those are the easy, more advertising centric approaches, but also showing the brand showing up in more discrete ways, more integrated ways of collaborating with the content that we're doing, or an interactive overlay that's part of the broadcast. So for example, there's ways to cheer online, brands and partners showing up as part of that. So I definitely see that moving a lot more integrated. Of course, the traditional advertising spaces will continue to be an important part of the entire experience, but I think they're going to be kind of woven even more throughout, which curious actually is your perspective on that too, since very much your wheelhouse, if that it kind of feels how you see it headed as well.
Yeah, we absolutely do. I mean, we think, when we talk about billboards in play, there's a lot of language going on with this right now, where we talk about virtual out of home advertising or digital out of world, right? Having a street corner or a stadium with footfall of 12, 50, 100 million people on this corner at this billboard, but it just doesn't actually exist. And it drives a lot of focus, because when someone's playing these games or when someone's watching these games, they're generally really focused on that channel. They're paying attention. It's one of the only things I think esports is amazing, in that it is probably the only sports consumption that you actually get better watching. And again, maybe we go back to chess as the original esports, but like, it does not matter how often I watch the Packers, I'm not going to learn any tricks for myself out of that. But definitely watching the properties I like the most, having played a lot of Hearthstone myself, which is another property of y'all, it is a great way to get better at these games. So it takes the focus, and as opposed to many other parts of the attention economy, people are actually in play rather they are consuming or playing. But that's looking to the future, and that is the title of the summit that we're at. We've said the word virtual dozens of times. Do you have any predictions for how virtual reality, augmented reality is going to change esports, rather it is the game or assistant HUD, or where do you view this sort of tech?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point of, I wish I could predict what's going to happen right now, because I would start doubling down on that from a marketing efforts for sure. But I see it as it becoming more immersive. You're already starting to see a little bit of what VR and AR can add to the experience. I think what is also going to be interesting to see is how second screens become all one experience. So how do you play and watch? Playing is a much more active experience. Watching is a bit more passive. You can multitask, when you're watching and seeing what's happening in the background. To the point that you just made too, we know our fans and all esports fans tune in for educational and entertainment purposes. The educational part is really interesting because, to your point, you can watch and you can get those tips. Something that we're really interested in too from the esports perspective is how do you use tech and AR to overlay more of the statistics, understand really what's happening, especially for those loyal viewers and really avid players, of understanding the exact stats of the pro players. Because a reminder, you look at the Call of Duty side, there's 100 million people that play Call of Duty around the world. We have 12 teams, of, let's call it an average 10 players. So you're talking about 120 people of 100 million players around the world that have rose to this elite status of professional ability. You know that the people watching want to understand, want to level up their gaming, want to know how they're doing it differently. So I see a lot of that. What's interesting now too is, the majority of esports have one singular broadcast experience in which you tune in and you're watching what's given to you. But we've done some testing on the Overwatch side with our World Cup of different views, and checking out things differently and understanding different perspectives and different POVs, watching different cameras of different players, different angles, really customizing the experience to how you want to watch it. I definitely see AR playing into that for sure. The VR world, I mean, gosh, I don't even know where that's all going to head, of just the type of entertainment it can bring. But I only see it, again, being just more immersive of what can be offered. And I would say that's what's so exciting about this space. And the only way to succeed in it is to have that level of agility and to kind of pivot where you can. And so it'll be cool to see what new tech offerings come on board and what esports properties kind of pivot to capitalize on them the first, and where that leads us to.
Absolutely. So I see we've been joined. I feel like we could talk about this all day, but have we gone on a little bit?
I think you got 5 more minutes if you have, or a few more minutes. If there's any closing questions you have, I just wanted to, give you that heads up.
Yeah, well, just looking at the future of tech, I do want to ask about the other side of it, because I'm super excited about VR and the idea of being able to watch my favorite player from a first person immersive view sounds amazing. Like, that's really exciting. But a lot of technological innovation has been like the speed, the ease, the handheldness of gaming. Over half of all gaming dollars go through mobile today. I think or the last numbers I looked at were 85, 90 billion out of 180 billion for last year. How are you viewing the mobile experience, and how do you think that that's influencing sort of, gaming in everyone's hands?
Yeah, 100%. Mobile gaming is definitely revolutionizing the gaming space and going to bring it to so many more users across the world. So it's something that really excites us. We have competitive gaming on the COD mobile side already, and are seeing just really impressive engagement and viewership of people kind of not only obviously playing, but watching what's happening there. So it's exciting for us because, for example, on the COD mobile side, it's bringing us into areas penetrating Asia much more heavily than their traditional COD experience. So only see that broadening the audience and demographic that we can reach. And timing, right? It's something that it's just so much more readily available. And as we see more games probably even go cross-play, that could change things of how you're watching, what it means to be the best of the sport, because it's very different if you're playing on mobile versus PC versus console. As a competitive player, it changes the entire experience. And in our case on Call of Duty, it's a different game. But to your point on Hearthstone, it just brings so much more opportunity and so much more reachability. So that'll definitely scale who we can reach and how often we're reaching them. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, as it stands right now, the people watching our games, we're still, about a lot of our viewers are still watching on PC, and that's because a lot of them are playing on PC. But of course, those playing on mobile are watching on mobile and just kind of having that, inner kind of experience across all their devices.
Yeah. I really see it as everywhere, right? I'm a big gamer, and it's great when I can sit down in my living room for 2 or 3 hours, or sit down at my desk for an hour. But you know, most of my gaming has been while waiting for an Uber or while waiting in line for the pharmacy, or these things lately, especially now that the world is open. I'm taking every moment I can to be outside of this house. But you know, games are really everywhere at every level. So that's really awesome.
Well, this is,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Oh, okay. I was going to say that this is wonderful, you know, hearing you guys talk. And, you know, I was an 80s kid, and, you know, I had the original Nintendo, and I remember, you know, fighting with my parents to get, can I play, can I have more time? And, you know, I would get the same response, you know, you can't make a living playing video games, right? This isn't going to be a career. And if only I knew, right? Like, if only I had, like, well, no, mom, this is going to be an international, like, this is going to be my job, right? If only I knew then what we know now. But no, this is phenomenal, guys. And we do have our next session getting started. So I want to thank you. You know, to your point, Michael, I think gaming is pervasive. It's life at this point, whether you're on your phone and then you transition to the console or to the PC, right? It's become platform agnostic. The gamers are everywhere. The audience is everywhere. And I think it's, you know, just about, you know, growing to, you know, with every new generation that hits it, you're getting more and more people involved. So it's exciting, you know, for you, Kristin, watching it grow. So we're rooting for you. We're going to keep watching. And I know you mentioned Chipotle. We had Scott here earlier from Chipotle talking about a lot of those activations. So excited to see that partnership evolve. And really, thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
All right. We're going to keep the show rolling. We have 2 more phenomenal sessions. Now we're going to go to Adam Abruzzi, Andrea Frederick, Martin Westberg, all from AKQA. And then we have Sean Harvath, the Chief Revenue Officer at Extreme Elements, who you heard talking with the Chipotle crew earlier. So again, you know, Kristin and Michael, thank you so much for your time today. And we will see you hopefully at another live cast soon.
Great. Thank you.
All right.